He called me negative. My only son, the boy I raised, nodded in agreement as his bride smirked. Behind her, the wedding dress glowed like a ghost, mocking, haunting, cruel. Then came her words, sharp as a knife. The best wedding gift is if you disappear. That was the moment my silence broke, and everything changed. If you've ever sacrificed everything for your children, only to be tossed aside when you were no longer convenient, then you know the kind of silence that follows. A silence so heavy, it feels like it might crush you. But before I tell you how I turned that silence into the loudest statement of my life, let me take you back 3 years. Back then, I was still learning to live without Robert, my husband of 43 years. He and I had bought and restored a beautiful Victorian home, the kind of house that groaned with history and warmth. When Michael announced he wanted to marry Amanda, my heart swelled. Finally, my son had found someone to share his life with. They dreamed of a house together, but dreams are expensive. Michael was short on savings, Amanda wanted luxury, and somehow the burden landed squarely on me. $87,000, my life savings. Every penny Robert and I had put aside for retirement, every careful dollar earned from years of teaching, pinching, and planning. I sold the Victorian home, the one filled with my memories, the one where Robert and I had shared Christmases, anniversaries, even arguments that ended in laughter. I handed Michael and Amanda the down payment for their dream home, telling myself this was what parents do. "You'll always have a place here, Mom," Michael promised as he hugged me. Always. That word still burns. At first I tried to believe it. When they moved in, I helped choose the cabinets, the countertops, even the light fixtures. Amanda wanted marble. Michael wanted granite. And I was the one swiping my credit card to make it possible. I told myself it was just a gift, an investment in my son's happiness. But over time, the warmth began to fade. Amanda had a way of looking at me that said, "You don't belong here." She fussed over her nails while I scrubbed dishes after family dinners. She corrected me in front of guests when I referred to the guest room as my room. It was never my room. Just a temporary corner until they decided I had overstayed my welcome. And Michael, oh, Michael. He stopped asking about my day. He stopped calling unless he needed something. I became less a mother and more a convenient purse, an emergency fund that kept their lifestyle afloat. Groceries, utility bills, little emergencies that added up to thousands. And every time I opened my wallet, Amanda's smile grew more polished, more rehearsed. Fast forward to the week of their wedding. The house buzzed with vendors, flowers, and Amanda's endless demands. She wanted ice sculptures shaped like swans. She wanted custom calligraphy on the menu. She wanted perfection. And I was the one financing most of it. $14,000 already gone, and they hadn't even said their vows yet. I bit my tongue when she complained about the weather, the caterer, the color of the napkins. I arranged bouquets until my hands ached. I told myself it was worth it, that after the wedding, maybe, just maybe, Amanda would soften and Michael would remember I was his mother. Then came the moment in the kitchen. Amanda in her robe, smirking like she'd just discovered a new cruelty to savor. The best gift for our wedding would be if you disappeared from our family. Michael didn't flinch, didn't defend me. He looked at me as if I were the problem. "This is Amanda's house now. You just gave us some money once, $87,000 reduced to some money once." I stood there, staring at the countertops my sacrifice had paid for, the walls I had painted, the very foundation of the life they were now building. And in that moment, something shifted inside me. Not broke, shifted, like a lock turning. I didn't cry, I didn't beg. I simply said, "You're right. I should go." Amanda blinked, surprised. Maybe she expected me to collapse in tears, to make a scene she could later gossip about. Michael looked relieved, already imagining me gone. I climbed the stairs to the guest room, my temporary space, and began folding my clothes into a suitcase. Below me, I could hear them talking about what they'd do with the room once I was gone. A yoga studio, an office, not one word of guilt, not one word of thanks. On the nightstand sat Robert's photograph, his kind eyes, his steady smile. He'd never once made me feel unwanted in our home. I touched the frame and whispered, "Don't worry, sweetheart. I'm not going down without a fight." But first, I had phone calls to make, and that's how, at 68 years old, I found myself in the driver's seat of my car outside the very house my money had bought, dialing the number of Margaret Chen, my lawyer and my late husband's most trusted advisor. "Dorothy?" she answered, her voice cautious. "It's Saturday evening. Is everything all right?" "Margaret," I said, steadying my breath, "I need you to pull every document we have on Michael and Amanda's house. The purchase, the deed, the mortgage, all of it. Because if Amanda wanted me gone, she was about to learn that I wasn't a guest in that house. I was a co-owner. Before I tell you how I turned that silence into the loudest statement of my life, make sure you subscribe to Silent Tears Stories and ring the bell icon. Here, you'll always find stories of sacrifice, betrayal, and the powerful twists that bring justice. Where are you watching from today? Leave a comment below. You might find someone else who shares your story. Margaret's pause on the other end of the line stretched longer than I expected. "Dorothy," she said carefully, "has something happened with Michael and Amanda?" I told her everything. Amanda's ultimatum, Michael's betrayal, the casual way they dismissed $87,000 as some money once. Margaret listened silently, but I could hear her fingers flying over a keyboard. "I've been worried about this for months," she admitted. "The way they treat your investment as a gift rather than what it actually was." "What it actually was?" I pressed. "Dorothy, don't you remember the additional paperwork I insisted you sign? After you mentioned Amanda's spending habits?" I searched my memory. Robert had only been gone a year back then. Grief was still fogging everything. Margaret had slid documents across her desk, and I'd signed without protest. "Oh, honey," she said gently, "that down payment wasn't a gift. Legally, it was a loan, and your name is on the deed as a 35% co-owner." I nearly dropped the phone. "Are you serious?" "Dead serious. Amanda never signed the acknowledgement forms I sent, but the mortgage company has you listed as a co-borrower. You're on the deed. It's airtight." For the first time in months, my heartbeat quickened, not with dread, but with something else. Power. When I pulled away from the house that night, Amanda was in the window twirling her veil, showing it off to someone on FaceTime. Michael popped open champagne. They were celebrating, smug in the belief they'd rid themselves of me. They had no idea that in 48 hours, their perfect little world would start to collapse. The next morning, I made my second call. "Sunset Gardens Country Club, this is Jessica." "Jessica, this is Dorothy Mitchell. I need to cancel tomorrow's wedding reception." There was a shocked pause. "Cancel?" "But Mrs. Mitchell, the food is prepared. The staff is scheduled." "I understand," I cut in smoothly, "and I'll pay the cancellation fees." But I signed the contract. The deposit was my credit card. That means I have the right to cancel. Another pause. "Don't you want to discuss this with the bride and groom first?" I looked through the window at Amanda, still giggling in her dress, oblivious. "No need. I'm making an executive decision. Cancel everything." By evening, I was checked into a Hampton Inn across town, eating room service with my feet up. For the first time in years, I felt in control. The call started at 11:47 p.m. "What did you do?" Amanda's voice shrieked through the receiver. "I honored your request," I said calmly. "You wanted me gone. So I'm gone. And the reception I was paying for? That's gone too." There was a gasp, followed by Michael's angry tone. "Mom, this is insane." 200 people are expecting dinner tomorrow. Then you'd better start ordering from McDonald's, I said. Silence. The kind of silence that tells you you've finally punctured someone's bubble. For years, I had been the silent benefactor. Grocery money slipped into Amanda's purse. Utility bills paid before Michael even noticed. Repairs, insurance, little emergencies. Over 3 years, it added up to $37,000, on top of the $87,000 for the down payment, $124,000. And what had I received in return? Disrespect. Dismissal. Now, they wanted to negotiate. "What do you want, Mom?" Michael asked finally, his voice shaky. "I want exactly what you offered me," I replied, "to disappear. And I'll be taking my money with me when I go." By Sunday morning, my phone showed 37 missed calls, 41 text messages. I ignored them all. At 9 a.m., there was a knock on my hotel room door. Through the peephole, I saw Michael, hair unkempt, tuxedo shirt wrinkled. "Mom, please. We need to talk." I opened the door but didn't invite him in. "Shouldn't you be getting ready for your big day?" His eyes were red-rimmed. "Amanda's locked in the bathroom. She won't come out. Her mother is threatening to fly back to California. The whole thing is falling apart." "I'm sorry to hear that," I said evenly. "I hope you work it out." He pushed past me into the room, desperation dripping from every word. "This is insane, Mom." "Over what? A misunderstanding about sleeping arrangements? Sit down, Michael." Something in my tone made him obey. For the first time in years, he looked at me like a child again, scared of his mother's authority. "This isn't about sleeping arrangements," I said. "It's about respect. Gratitude. Treating the person who made your lifestyle possible like a human being instead of an inconvenience." "Mom, we've always treated you well. Have you?" I asked quietly. "When was the last time you called me just to talk? When was the last time you remembered my birthday without Facebook reminding you? When was the last time you invited me to dinner because you wanted my company, not my wallet?" He opened his mouth, then shut it. The silence said more than words ever could. "In the past year," I continued, "I gave you $37,000. Do you know how much that is on top of the down payment?" Michael's face went pale. "We were always going to pay you back." "Were you?" "Amanda's been shopping for a new car. You've been pricing vacations to Europe. Not once have you mentioned repaying me, because you never intended to." His voice cracked. "What do you want from us, Mom? I want you to understand that kindness isn't infinite. I want you to understand that when you treat someone badly enough, eventually they stop caring about your problems. You're punishing us by ruining our wedding day." I shook my head slowly. "No, Michael, I'm protecting myself from financial abuse." He blinked. "Financial abuse?" "Yes. You've conditioned me to believe my only value is money. You've taken everything while making me feel guilty for having needs. That ends today." The knock on the door phone startled both of us. I answered. "Mrs. Mitchell? This is Jessica from Sunset Gardens. Amanda's mother is offering to cover the reception costs herself if you'll allow us to proceed." Michael's eyes lit up. I smiled into the phone. "That's generous, Jessica. But no. Please let Mrs. Haworth know the cancellation stands." Michael's shoulders sagged. "That was Amanda's mother," I told him. "She's willing to pay $14,000 to save your reception." Too bad her daughter couldn't manage to be civil to the person who was originally paying. He ran his hands through his hair, defeated. "What happens now?" I leaned forward, my voice low but steady. "Now, you face the consequences of your choices. I own 35% of your house. You can buy me out at market value. Or we sell. Those are your only options." His face drained of color. "You can't. That would destroy us." "No, Michael. It will save me. For the first time in years, I'm choosing myself." And as he stumbled out of my hotel room to deliver the worst news of Amanda's life, I sat back, calmer than I had felt in a long time. They thought I was weak. They thought I'd always be their safety net. But sometimes, the most loving thing you can do is let people fall. By late afternoon, I was eating a quiet lunch in the hotel restaurant, enjoying the taste of food I hadn't had to cook, when my phone rang again. This time, the voice was different. Mrs. Mitchell, this is Detective Rodriguez with the Virginia Beach Police Department. I'm calling about a report we received regarding financial elder abuse. My fork froze in midair. I'm sorry. What? He cleared his throat. Someone contacted us claiming family members have been financially exploiting you. They also suggested you may be experiencing cognitive decline. We'll need to conduct a welfare check. I laughed, sharp and humorless. Detective, I assure you I'm in full possession of my faculties. In fact, I haven't felt this clear-headed in years. But inside, fury burned hotter than ever. Michael and Amanda hadn't just tried to erase me from their family. Now they were trying to weaponize my age, to paint me as senile, incapable, so they could continue draining me without resistance. I'll be glad to meet with you, I said coolly, and I have quite a lot to discuss with you about financial abuse, just not the kind they reported. The next morning, I walked into the police station with a leather folder under my arm. Every bank statement, check stub, and transfer record I had carefully kept since Robert died. Detective Rodriguez was younger than I expected, maybe 40, with kind but probing eyes. He gestured to the chair across from him. Mrs. Mitchell, I want to start by saying the person who called seemed genuinely concerned. I'm sure she did, I replied, sliding my documents across his desk. My daughter-in-law is very good at sounding concerned when it suits her. Now, would you like to see proof of $124,000 given over the past 3 years? His brows shot up. That's substantial. It is, I said evenly. And yesterday, when I finally stopped funding their lifestyle, suddenly I became the senile old woman who needed a welfare check. Convenient, don't you think? He leafed through my papers. Checks labeled house repair, credit card payments, utility bills, a pattern of dependency that looked less like support and more like exploitation. This is compelling, he admitted. It's the truth, I said. Then I pulled out my trump card, Margaret's paperwork showing my name on the deed. I'm not some confused retiree handing out checks. I'm a legal co-owner of their house, and I'm exercising my rights. We spoke for 20 more minutes. By the end, he leaned back in his chair, satisfied. Mrs. Mitchell, I'm going to close this case as unfounded, but I want you to have these resources in case the financial abuse continues. Detective, I said, gathering my papers, I think I finally have the situation in hand. When I stepped outside, the crisp air felt like victory. My phone buzzed again. Michael's number. Mom, his voice trembled. The police called. They said they're not pursuing the welfare check. That's because I'm not the one being abused, I said. A pause. What do you mean? It means you and Amanda have been systematically draining me for years while giving me nothing but disrespect in return. And now the game is over. His voice cracked. Are you threatening us? No, Michael. I'm informing you that your manipulation tactics don't work anymore. By that afternoon, Amanda was on the line, her voice raw with tears. Dorothy, please. I didn't mean what I said. I was just stressed about the wedding. I cut her off. Amanda, in 3 years, you've never once thanked me. Not once. You've never called to ask about my health. You've never invited me to anything unless you needed childcare or money. Yesterday, you told me to disappear. Today, you're calling me family. Which is it? Her sobbing grew louder. I'll do anything. I'll apologize publicly. I'll pay you back. I almost laughed. Pay me back? With what money? You don't even work. At minimum wage, it would take you 6 years just to repay the cash you already owe me, and that's if you never spent a dime on yourself again. The line went quiet, except for her ragged breathing. 2 days later, we sat across from one another in Margaret's office. Michael looked exhausted. Amanda's eyes were swollen from crying. Margaret laid the documents on the table like cards in a poker game. Dorothy provided $87,000 for the down payment, she said crisply. The deed lists her ownership at 35%. The mortgage shows her as co-borrower. This is legally binding. Michael's jaw clenched. We didn't know. You would have, Margaret snapped, if Amanda had signed the acknowledgement forms I sent 3 times. I was busy with wedding planning, Amanda muttered. For 3 years, Margaret's voice dripped with skepticism. I leaned forward. The question now is simple. How do we move forward? Option 1. You buy me out at current market value. Option 2. We sell the house and split the proceeds. There is no option. 3. Amanda's face went white. We don't have that kind of money. Then you'd better start packing, I said softly. For the first time, Michael didn't argue. He pressed his hands to his face like a man realizing the ground beneath him had crumbled. Mom, please. Is there any way we can work out a payment plan? Monthly installments? At what interest rate? With what collateral? I countered. You already owe me $37,000 in emergencies you never intended to repay. Why should I trust you now? Amanda's tears returned in full force. This will destroy us. No, I said firmly. This will force you to live within your means. Something you should have learned a long time ago. As we rose to leave, Amanda grabbed my arm, desperation flashing in her eyes. Dorothy, please. We're family. Doesn't that count for something? I looked down at her hand, then back at her face. Family is supposed to count for something. That's exactly why this hurts. That night, back in my hotel room, I poured myself a glass of wine and stared at the glowing skyline outside my window. For years, I had been their safety net, the invisible cushion beneath their reckless choices. But I finally understood something Barbara Haworth, Amanda's mother, had hinted at during our brief, surprising conversation after the canceled reception. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do is not catch them when they fall. I picked up my phone and sent Michael a simple message. You have 30 days to present a serious plan. Buy me out or prepare for the sale. Those are your only choices. For the first time in years, I felt like the one holding the cards. And oh, how quickly the game was changing. 2 weeks into their 30-day deadline, there was a knock at my hotel room door. When I opened it, I was surprised to see Barbara Haworth, Amanda's mother, holding a bottle of wine. Her silver hair was perfectly styled, her posture elegant, but her eyes carried the same weariness I had seen in my own mirror. I hope you don't mind me dropping by, she said gently. I got your information from Margaret Chen. May I come in? Curiosity won. I poured 2 glasses as Barbara settled into the armchair. I came to check on the kids, she began, her tone matter of fact. They're doing terribly. Amanda's having panic attacks. Michael is drowning in overtime. They're fighting constantly. Her words might have once filled me with satisfaction, but instead I just felt tired. Barbara studied me. Dorothy, are you here to ask me to reconsider? I raised an eyebrow. I was about to ask if you were here to plead their case. She shook her head. Actually, no. I'm here to tell you about Amanda's father. She sipped her wine, her voice steady but sad. Richard spoiled Amanda rotten. Every tantrum rewarded, every consequence cushioned. When she totaled her car at 16 while drunk, Richard hired the best lawyer and had the charges dropped. She never learned accountability. And now, I barely recognize the woman she's become. I was stunned. For years, I had thought Amanda's cruelty was personal, aimed only at me. But Barbara's confession painted a bigger picture. Amanda was the product of years of being shielded from the consequences of her choices. Barbara reached into her purse and pulled out a check. She asked me to give you this. $25,000, a good faith payment toward buying out your share. I glanced at it but didn't touch it. And what did you tell her? I told her absolutely not. That money came from Richard's life insurance, her inheritance, and giving it to her would just repeat the same mistake. Barbara tore the check cleanly in half. Amanda doesn't need more rescue. She needs reality. Her eyes softened. Whatever you decide about the house, Dorothy, I support you, even if it means they lose their home, especially then. Maybe losing it is the only thing that will finally teach Amanda gratitude. After she left, I sat in silence, replaying her words. For 3 years, I'd been Amanda's enabler just as much as her parents had been. Every bill I paid, every check I wrote, I was teaching them that someone would always cushion their fall. Not anymore. My phone buzzed, a message from Michael. "Mom, we've been approved for a home equity loan. $60,000 toward buying you out. Can we meet to discuss a payment plan for the rest?" They were trying. Finally. But borrowing more money wasn't growth. It was another bandage on a wound that needed stitches. I typed back, "We can discuss it, but bring a full household budget and a realistic plan to pay off all your debts, not just mine." A week later, we sat in Margaret's office again. Michael spread their financial documents across the polished wood table, like evidence in a trial. Amanda sat stiffly, her lips pressed tight. I scanned the papers. $400 a month on restaurants. Amanda flushed. "We both work long hours." "You don't work at all," I interrupted. Michael cleared his throat. "She means I do." "I work late, and she keeps the house." I moved down the list. $300 a month on clothing, $200 on streaming subscriptions, $150 for a gym you barely use, $800 in credit card minimums for shopping and vacations. Amanda's face reddened. "We've learned our lesson, and we'll cut back." "Have you?" I asked. "Because I don't see any meaningful change here. You're still living as if money falls from the sky." Michael leaned forward, desperate. "What would convince you, Mom?" "What do you want to see?" Finally, the right question. "I want to see a budget that reflects your actual income. Cancel the luxuries, cook at home, and Amanda." I looked her dead in the eye. "Get a job." Her jaw dropped. "A job? I have a degree. I don't need to." "You're 39 years old," I said calmly. "There's no reason you can't contribute. You've been treating shopping like an occupation. Time to get a real one." Margaret folded her hands. "Dorothy, what exactly are you proposing?" I took a breath. This was the moment. "My offer is this. You can buy out my share for $75,000, less than market value." "But there are conditions." Amanda's eyes lit up. Michael sat straighter. "First, Amanda must find a job within 60 days and keep it for at least 2 years. Second, you sell one of your cars and use the money to pay down debt. Third, you live on a strict budget. No restaurants, no shopping sprees, no new debt. And every month, you'll meet with Margaret to prove it. If you fail, the full $105,000 becomes due immediately." Amanda's mouth opened, then snapped shut. "That's like financial prison." "No," I said softly. "That's called accountability." They asked for a moment and stepped into the hall. Margaret leaned toward me. "Dorothy, this is either very generous or very cruel. I can't decide which. Maybe it's both," I said, staring at the door. When they returned, Michael spoke for them both. "We accept your terms." Amanda looked like she'd swallowed poison, but she nodded. Margaret began drafting the agreement. As they signed, I felt a mix of victory and grief. Victory, because I had reclaimed my dignity. Grief, because it had come to this. 6 months later, Amanda called. Her voice was different. "Dorothy, I got a promotion, office manager at the dental practice. I've never been so tired in my life. But I'm proud. For the first time, I'm proud of myself." Her laugh, genuine, unpolished, floated through the line. It was the first time in years I believed she meant it. "Dorothy," she whispered after a pause, "I owe you an apology. A real one. I was horrible to you. I treated you like an ATM, and you were right. Love isn't infinite if it's abused. Thank you for teaching me that the hard way." I set my coffee cup down, blinking back tears. I had never wanted revenge for revenge's sake. I had wanted transformation. And maybe, just maybe, it was happening. That night, I thought of Robert. How he used to say, "Sometimes love means saying no." And for the first time in decades, I realized he'd been right all along. 6 months after signing the agreement, my life looked nothing like it had before. I had moved into a bright 2-bedroom apartment in a senior community. It wasn't a mansion, but it had something I hadn't felt in years: peace. There were walking trails, a pool, a book club that met every Thursday. For once, my days were mine alone. I woke without the weight of constant financial requests. I spent afternoons tending to herbs in the community garden, evenings laughing with neighbors who valued me for my company, not my checkbook. And in the quiet, I found something I thought I had lost forever: myself. One chilly morning, my phone rang. The caller ID read, "Amanda." For a moment, I considered letting it go to voicemail. But something inside nudged me to answer. "Dorothy?" Her voice was lighter than I remembered, though tinged with nervousness. "I got the promotion. Office manager now. I've never worked so hard in my life, but I'm proud. I didn't know I could do it." There was a pause, then she laughed, a genuine, unpolished laugh. "And Michael and I, we're different now. We cook dinner together. We walk instead of shop. We even talk, really talk, in a way we never did before." Her words surprised me, but what came next nearly undid me. "Dorothy, I owe you a real apology. I was cruel to you. I treated you like a bank. And when you asked for respect, I called you dramatic. You deserved better. Thank you for not bailing us out. For forcing us to grow up." I set my coffee cup down, my hands trembling. For years, I had dreamed of hearing those words. And now, here they were. Not panicked, not manipulative, but real. "I appreciate that, Amanda," I said softly. "But understand, I didn't do it to punish you. I did it because I finally realized my worth, and because sometimes love means stepping back." There was a long silence. Then she asked, almost shyly, "Would you come to dinner sometime? Nothing fancy, just spaghetti, no strings attached, just family." The old Dorothy would have said yes immediately, desperate to repair what was broken. But the new Dorothy paused. I thought of Robert's words. I thought of the hotel room where I first chose myself. I thought of the bruises left on my heart from years of neglect. "I'd like that," I said finally, "but let's start small. Lunch, public place, baby steps." Her relief was palpable. "Of course. Whatever you're comfortable with." After the call, I sat for a long time, watching the sunlight shift across the floor. For the first time, Amanda had sounded like an adult, a woman humbled by consequences. Maybe she was finally becoming someone I could respect. Moments later, another text came in. From Barbara. "Heard about Amanda's promotion. Thank you for not giving up on her." I smiled, replying simply, "Thank you for not bailing her out." Because Barbara was right. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do is let someone face the fall. Weeks later, Amanda and I met at a small cafe. She looked different, less polished, more grounded. Her manicured nails were chipped, her hands tired, but her eyes clearer. She handed me a small envelope. "Proof of the last 3 payments," she said proudly. "We're sticking to the budget. Margaret checks everything. It's hard, but it feels good. Real." I opened the envelope and glanced at the receipts. For the first time in years, I didn't feel anger when I looked at her. I felt something else. Pity? Maybe. But also a fragile hope. "You're learning," I said quietly. That's all I ever wanted. Later that evening, as I walked back through my community's garden, I thought about the journey. 3 years of sacrifice. A wedding that nearly broke me. The humiliation of being told to disappear. But also, the strength I found in saying no. The justice I secured by standing on the law. The peace I carved out for myself when I stopped living for people who didn't respect me. I thought about my audience, too. The women watching this story unfold. Women who had given everything, only to be dismissed. And I wanted to tell them, you are not invisible. Your worth does not vanish because someone younger or louder tries to erase it. Sometimes the most powerful gift you can give is the reminder that you matter. Now, Amanda still calls sometimes. Michael, too, though his voice always carries a tinge of guilt. Our relationship isn't perfect. Maybe it never will be. But it's different. Stronger in its honesty, if not in its closeness. I no longer subsidize their lives. I no longer let them guilt me into sacrifices. And they, finally, are learning to stand on their own feet. As for me, I joined the hiking group at the community. I started attending book club, where I laughed at a joke so hard one evening that a kind man named Frank asked me to lunch. At 68, I was rediscovering what it felt like to be valued for my company, not my checkbook. And that, I realized, was worth more than all the money I had ever given away. If you've ever been made to feel disposable, let my story remind you. Respect isn't guaranteed by blood. It's earned through love, gratitude, and kindness. Sometimes love means saying no. Sometimes family isn't who shares your name, but who shares your respect. And sometimes the greatest gift you can give is not disappearing, but finally showing up for yourself. Thank you for listening. Before we close, I want to ask you, if you were in my shoes, what would you have done? Would you have sold the house out from under them or given them one last chance to change? Share your thoughts in the comments. Your stories matter too. And don't forget, subscribe to Silent Tears Stories and turn on notifications. Here, every story of sacrifice and betrayal finds its twist, and every voice is heard, because none of us should have to suffer in silence.